Euphoria at Arsenal's victory over Southampton, only slightly dulled by Spurs' easy victory at Brighton. Oh, wait. Oh, it happened again. This is the ArsenalVision post-match podcast. My name is Elliot, the Black Man, Twitter, Yankee Gunner. It happened again. It happened again. Tottenham Hotspur, it happened again. It did happen again. We might touch on that a little bit later. We might touch on Tottenham Hotspur. Not only because they lost, but because I have a theory. My friend has this theory as well. It is not a unique theory. You, listener, may hold this theory as well. I think Ange Postecoglou hates Tottenham Hotspur and hates Tottenham Hotspur fans. I think ever since the day they tried to suck the ball into their own net against Manchester City, he has decided, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. And it's brilliant, and I love it. And I think long may it continue. So we'll touch a little bit on things that happen around the league. We've got an international break finally, so we're going to do a lot of coverage of the international games this week. I'm kidding. Can you imagine? We will probably do a rewatch. I'd love to do a first half rewatch of the Southampton game, get a second look at performances from players like Jesus and Sterling, have a look at what really happened there. Some of the impact of, having a midfielder at right back and get a sense of what happened in the game. Because I think maybe it's a game that the emotion has distorted the understanding a little bit, similar to the Leicester game in that respect. We had a great instant reaction of the day you can listen to. There's a stats guy and a civilian up if that's your kind of thing. Remember, we don't kink shame here. And last, but certainly not least, I will ask you to vote for us for the FCAs. Or if you think there's a more deserving pod, vote for that one. But we are the Arsenal representative in the category Best Podcast Premier League. And the ceremony is at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So it is just the natural thing to vote for us so that we can lift a trophy there. And then while you're there, you can vote for Tim in the women's section. You can vote for Poorly Drawn Arsenal in the graphic design section. You can vote for Ian Wright in the best podcast organization section, I believe is where he's at. And we can just keep hoisting trophies all night long at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The link to do that is in the show notes, and we really love you and appreciate you. So thank you for being just wonderful, basically. Okay, another victory for the Arsenal, and another victory that maybe had more emotion than we'd like, and maybe emotion that distracts from what is otherwise, I think, probably a better performance than maybe the discussion around it. But we'll see if the gentlemen on the pod with me agree. One of them is named Tim. You can find him on Twitter at Stillman. Hello, Tim.
Hello there.
And another one of them is named Clive. You can find him on Twitter at Clive Pusey. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Not too bad.
Not too bad. Not too bad is good. I mean, why not sensational, brilliant? Actually, I do know you've had a family matter, so I apologize for my jocularity and hope that all is well.
It's all good. It's all good.
Typical. That's just me, right? Here I am giving you shit for saying it's okay, and you're dealing with something, and I'm being an asshole. But I do love you, as you know, and I hope that you are doing well. Tim, hopefully, nothing that I've run afoul of here on your side.
Not to my knowledge at the moment.
Good. Friendship. So is there. So I think we dive right into this because this one, I think, has some pretty interesting but obvious talking points. And Tim, I'll start with you because the most obvious talking point is just the rotation. Mm-hmm. It is interesting, right? Because we all understand that with the outrageous cluster of fixtures that we have, playing every 3 days, basically until the new year, apart from international breaks when the players thankfully get to play every 3 days for their nation. We are going to have to rotate. Mm-hmm. But then we see a rotated lineup and there's that, no, not like that, because we're nervous. We want the points, right? When push comes to shove and the game kicks off, we want the points. We played an emotional game in midweek over PSG, a big home game in the Champions League. I think we have seen very clearly, and we know from experience, that playing in Europe midweek makes it very hard when the weekend rolls around. Manchester City put up a frankly dreadful performance against Fulham, and we're lucky to get away with the points there. Liverpool, a very subdued and mediocre performance themselves. Villa, after a historic night beating Bayern Munich, really laid an egg against a United team that was there to be rolled over. And so I think that is a reminder that you have to do things. And one of the things you can do by rotating is not just put fresh legs out there, but maybe players hungry to be a part of this energy, as opposed to the players who are maybe on the downslope of that energy. Obviously, having no right backs didn't help, so we had to play a midfielder at right back. But I'll leave it to you. What do you think of the decisions he made to rotate and just sort of overall what that meant for the team?
Yeah, completely made sense. You pointed to it there in terms of what else happened across the league this weekend. Tottenham did play in Europe as well on Thursday. Look what happened to them in the second half. Manchester United versus Aston Villa was the lowest overall XG game in the Premier League for the last 2 years. And they had big emotional games in Europe as well this week. So yeah, like those things happen. I essentially, I looked at this. I said afterwards, almost more in disgust, that this felt like an FA Cup third round game to me, where you kind of make a decision where it's like, we're going to give some guys a chance, and if after 60 minutes it's not working, we'll bring the men on for the boys, as it were. And that's kind of what happened. So, I mean, at right back, Thomas Partey, not sure what other choices we had, really, in terms of Timber and White not being available. Tomiyasu, particularly with his injury history, I don't think you risk him there at all. So, Partey at right back, I wasn't really keen to see a 16-year-old there, to be honest. And bringing Jesus and Sterling in, I felt the reason I felt this almost like an FA Cup third round game is because the way you pick your team in the FA Cup third round is more, I think, sometimes is less about giving players minutes and more about, can I take minutes off players? This was different because I think this was about giving players minutes. But when you pick teams for those games, it's almost like, what can I get away with and still get the result and just go through to the next round? That's what this felt like to me. I'm pretty sure when Arteta picked Jesus and Sterling, both of whom are in different phases, shall we say, I think there's an excellent chance he thought, this is not going to be our free-flowing best. Those two players are probably not going to put up career best performances today, but we're going to need them. We're going to need them in this period, in this season, and I need them playing. And I can't do that if I'm giving them like 200 minutes a season. If they end up in the Vieira Smith Rowe kind of lockers, as it were, getting a couple of 100 minutes, only coming on when we're 4-0 up, then they're not going to be any use to us. So it almost felt like, I think Arteta probably thought they're probably not going to be brilliant, but Jesus, I need to get him through this. Jesus is probably where Martinelli was not so long ago, and it's like, I've got to get him through this. Sterling, I think it's more about, right, okay, he hasn't played enough football in the last couple of months, he needs to come up to the level. And really, we kind of, I wouldn't call it a gamble, but it's a semi-gamble that, okay, but this is Southampton at home. We can win this game playing 6 or 7 out of 10. And those are decisions that teams that want to win the league and go far in the Champions League just have to make in a season. If you can't do it at home to a pretty miserable Southampton side, you can't do it. It's that simple.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say about this kind of rotation is that I'm not sure it's helpful for any of the rotated players individually, in the sense that Jesus isn't coming into the settled side. Sterling isn't coming into the settled side, right? You've replaced your central midfielder, your right back, your number 9, and your left wing, right? You've replaced all of those players. And so any of the automatisms and the partnerships that have developed are disrupted, and that disruption impacts everybody else who has to slot into those positions. I also think with Thomas Partey playing right back, and I think he did a good job in that position, but the thing you're not going to get is any overlapping. He is not given the license to overlap. And that just makes sense. First of all, you don't want to see his hamstrings going from sprinting the touchline. And second of all, like, you don't want to expose yourself. But that means that Bukayo Saka has to work basically against 2 defenders every time, which, oh, by the way, he is very comfortable doing. Another outrageous statistical performance from him in terms of chances created and shots. We'll come on to that in a moment. But Clive, despite the rotation, I still think Arsenal did what Arsenal do effectively. We absolutely smothered the crap out of them with our press and off the ball. And I'm starting to think that the biggest issue this team has, if you want to put that in quotes, is simply not creating enough clear chances from the absurd amount of high turnovers we generate with our press. So I thought the first 20 minutes, this was rampant Arsenal as you know it, just without the clear chance. What did you make of that opening phase where I think we were very, very dominant?
Yeah, I mean, other end stuff for me in the ground when I watched it. So
they're not playing any football for you this season. You should get a rebate off your
all the goals
ticket
this year. I got all the goals this game. So, but other end stuff that affected my sort of instant reaction analysis, right? Because I couldn't see the moments how sharp they were. The Jesus deflected shot, Sterling bundling close in. I couldn't see that really clearly. Just players, right? So, and we played like I expected us to play. Pushed them back. Steve was on the edge of the area within a few minutes. And yeah, nothing to see here. To pick Jesus, I'm thinking, well, you know what? I watched Southampton versus Bournemouth. some of the pattern play out the back. Jesus is ripe to steal that. I'm not going to judge Jesus on shots today. I'm going to judge him on tackles and interceptions because that's what he's really good at, isn't he? He's really good at robbing people. I will say he wasn't so good as he used to be, in my opinion. But hey, look, I'll get into him later, no doubt. And so yeah, just normal standard stuff. But it just didn't seem to go in, you know. And we have this thing in our minds that when we don't score when we feel we should, we then start to wonder how good we actually are sometimes when it comes to scoring. And then you look at the last two games and you just see 7 goals for, you know, and okay, well, let's ignore that, shall we? and go from there. So yeah, I felt it was a steady start. Watching new players assimilate, and for those that are not, you know, when they look to rotation, for those that are thinking, oh man, I'm not so sure about it. It's the game of the season for me that always reminds me of things that you can learn. Bayern Munich away, we had all the players on the pitch, but they were fatigued. And that's the conversation you don't want to have. In a big game, when the players that you want to play are there, but they can't play to the standard that you want them to play, then you'll realise why this game and the Sterlings and the Jesuses and the Kiviors and the parties are really important to allowing other players to be fresh and ready for the games that we absolutely want to die to win for. And we have one coming up late October against Liverpool. And we need to have the right people sharp for that day.
Can I stay with you for a second, though, Clive? Because I think, you know, these are hard games, I think, for people to analyze sometimes because the emotion is so pitched. The problem with chasing City is every 3 points feels existential. And so when you come away from a 0-0 with Southampton at home, there's a sense of, oh, you know, what the heck's going on with us? But you look at it, 14 shots to their 2, right? 70% possession in the first half. We had 36 touches in the opposition box. Let me put that in perspective for you. Liverpool in their game had 28 touches in the opposition box. In the game, we had 36 in the first half. This is our second game that we crossed over 60 touches in the opposition box, right? This was a battering, but there is a perfectly reasonable response to what I'm saying, which is, you know, well, and what are the goals there? How many goals did that get you, right? We had no shots on target in the half, right? And or one shot on target. So people will say, you can quote all the stats you want at me, there was no end product. I think that's a little picky because football, you know, it is about dominance, and dominance tends to yield results as it has these last 2 games. But what I want to ask you about is converting high turnovers to chances. I really believe that the area we can tighten up, and I actually think there was some of this last season, is taking those moments where we turn a team over all the way up the pitch and getting a clear chance out of it. Not even necessarily a goal, but making the right decision in the moment. So the perfect contrast, by the way, Kai Havertz goal. What does it come from? Saka intercept. Saka first time right into Kai. Beautiful diagonal ball between the lines to Kai in a space where he can hurt them quickly. First half, there wasn't enough of that. So what do you think of that specifically? How we leverage high turnovers into more and better chances?
Yeah, I think it's just decision making, Elliot, and accuracy of pass, and making sure everyone's in sync. And you said it: how many people will change, and how many parachutes were new, and that in sync thing. And also, I do believe motivations of the players that are coming in, who are slightly maybe who want to get further at the pecking order and show they can be trusted. They just try to do things a little bit more certain. They hold on to it a little bit more. I'll give you an example, and I'll give myself a rollick in here. During the second half, when just after halftime, Sterling's got the ball, Calafiori's won it, Sterling runs forward, Calafiori's on the outside, Sterling just runs into the guy into the box. I'm thinking, flip me now, fuming, right? And then, because I can see that bit, I've had a few pints, bloody hell, Sterling. And then he does something similar again. And the next thing he does, we win the ball, Calafiori wins the ball, goes to Sterling. Sterling then loses the ball, they transition and they score. Well, I've got the ump now. I've got the ump. You know, and as far as I'm concerned, it's all Sterling's fault. It's all Sterling's fault because I've got that view right in front of me of that issue. And then next minute we score. Kai scores a goal with his pillow feet, he says, laughing because they're not pillow feet anymore. And we make substitutions and the day's happy. And the player that we were worried about just 3 weeks ago, Martinelli, for confidence, for kicking things past the front post, he's suddenly kicking things inside the post. And I suppose it's a lesson to myself to get people back into form. The best way to do it, mate, is to play football. And then those decisions will become clear. They will hit the centre of the ball. They won't hold on to it too long. They won't turn the wrong direction when a player's running on the outside. And these things will happen. And the only way it's going to work out is if they play. And I think as fans, and I have to do it too, by the way, I put myself in this category. Our desperation for success, and not even success, mate, I'm talking success by half time so we can relax, is so acute that maybe we're a little bit touchy when someone just doesn't control the ball correctly.
Yeah, and it is the case that, especially when it's a player that's on loan, has just arrived from the place they've arrived from, that, that's certainly a thing. I think the frustration with Gabriel Jesus, I don't understand as much because it feels a little bit like the only thing Jesus did wrong is get a knee injury that has totally scuppered his Arsenal career, and I feel for him a little bit. I know there is a video going around, I think from the Leicester game, when we scored the late winner, and he has no reaction at all. And that's a little hard to watch. When he came off in this game, he kind of bypassed Mikel a little bit. It seemed Mikel wanted to give him a little more encouragement than he wanted to take on, and I'm sure he knows where he's at. We touched on this in a previous pod. This is a guy who wants to play for Brazil and be their number 9. This is a guy who was acquired, his dream move to be the star striker for a big club. And a lot of those dreams have gone up in smoke because of injury. And he's not where he wants to be in the pecking order and in his career right now. So tricky times for him, for sure. Look, narrative is dictated by outcome. And you can look at the Villa game. The Aston Villa game is a great example. We produced 0.87 expected goals. We conceded 2 of the biggest chances you'll ever see Oli Watkins miss ever again if you watch football, watch his whole career. We had Morgan Rogers running through us nonstop, but we won 2-0 away. No one's going to pick the bones out of that. They're just going to say, we're awesome, look at us. And then you get games like this where you have 60, 70 touches in the opposition box and 29 shots and 3 expected goals. But because it was nervy, there's going to be a tendency to question, how it worked. And I just think process-wise, this was working, Tim. Now, I will say that after about 20 minutes, when Southampton came to terms with the press a bit, there was a lull. There was a bit of a dip. There were some huge moments. I mean, like in the 7th minute, Ramsdale gives the ball right to Sterling. Sterling plays a 1-2 with Jesus, loses the possession, no penalty. Then they turn it over again. Kai is in. He plays a cutback, and it's knocked out for a corner. That was from Jorginho, by the way, a brilliant Jorginho through ball. So I think we had our moments, but it was all very right-hand side. So let me ask you about the left-hand side. You seemed a little heated about Sterling in the moment. Jesus and Sterling and Rice, I thought, if we're going to pick on Sterling, let's talk Rice a little bit. More peripheral than we want a player of that caliber to be, although he did have a lot of ball recoveries. So what do you think? The left-hand side, once again, this game felt very much like it was all happening up Saka's side and nothing was happening on the left-hand side in the first half. So you want to maybe touch on your Sterling feelings and the left-hand side generally in that first half?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the right-hand side, right, that's where the 2 hot players are, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like Havertz in that Ødegaard role, ostensibly, particularly when the ball's over there, with Saka. And that's exactly what I wanted to see from the Ødegaard absence. It's just like, next man up, and no one can really do what Ødegaard does, but an informed Havertz is definitely going to be the closest we can get, and he can go and do his second striker thing when the ball's on the other side. So I think with Rice, this is a lower touch role, basically. Like we saw that with Xhaka, and we saw it with him last season, that like left 8 role. It's a low touch role. It's an off ball role, essentially. And we had loads of the ball. So there is almost an element of redundancy to it a little bit. And I'll be very, very keen to see what happens once Marino starts playing there, and whether his role is more about like attacking that back post and getting in the box. Perhaps, the cross we see from Saka to the Martinelli for the Martinelli goal. I'd like to see Marino in that area a couple of times. So I cut Rice some slack just because I kind of think that's what it is. It's like almost a left winger at times, like really on the outside of the block. In terms of Sterling, yeah, I was annoyed. let's talk about the Sterling Jesus thing here, really. Like, because Jesus is low on confidence. The story of this man's career is 2 World Cups that haven't gone his way. For 2 very different reasons. And the thing about Jesus, he takes things hard. He always has. Like, it took him a long time to recover from getting slaughtered the 2018 World Cup. It took him a long time. He stopped playing up front, said he didn't want to play there anymore, started playing on the wing, felt it like it hurt him, it affected him, which is part of why he went to the last World Cup, I think, basically injured to try and make amends. And it's made things worse. And I think, I think maybe this is a player who's cried on the pitch quite a lot at international level, and I don't say that pejoratively, but it gets to him, and I think we can see that because we were talking in pre-season about how sharp he looked, how good he looked, and he gets an injury, and maybe there's an element of maybe he's listening to a bit too much Smiths and he's painted all the walls black. In his house, and he doesn't want to see anyone anymore, and he's so out of here as soon as he's out of college. He's probably gone into a bit of an introspective place. Whereas, and to your point as well, like the Arsenal number 9 dream is kind of slipping away from him. With Sterling, it was different because I thought he was pretty ineffective, to be honest, and I kind of forgive that. He's coming up to speed. He's in a new team. Et cetera, et cetera. I wasn't expecting him to be like 2016 Raheem Sterling. I probably don't expect that at any point this season. My annoyance with him, Elliot, is on the goal. Before that, to Clive's point, I felt there were a few times he was trying to do things for himself. And again, rather than the team. And again, I can kind of get that, given where he is. But do you remember the Spurs game? He comes on. What's the first thing that happens? Someone comes and nicks the ball off him. And what does he do? He falls over. He stays on the ground looking at the referee. I gave him a pass for that because that was his first involvement in an Arsenal shirt and he'd barely played for like 6 weeks. But it happens again and he gets his pocket picked. He's not just on the pitch. He's been on the whole game. He's nearly 30 years old. And, look, it happens, right? Sometimes you get the ball taken off you. It's what's your reaction? And the reaction I associate with this team, what we got from Sterling was didn't chase back, but when the ball went in, he went and chased the referee because he knew he'd messed up. And he didn't take accountability for it. He wanted to go and whinge for a foul. And it's like, mate, this isn't Chelsea. You're not gonna get your belly tickled and your head patted for finishing 6th. Matt Law's not going to write 700 words about how brilliant you are because, like, you scored a goal, I don't know, at home to Southampton or something. Like, we're trying to win the league here, and you know that because you've been at that level. You've been at that level more than anyone else on this team, basically. So I don't want to see, like, you lying on the floor whinging at the ref because someone took the ball off you. And managers' reactions in those moments are instructive. And when you see the manager, something like that happens and the manager goes to the subs, come over here, that's when you know. That's when you know the manager's not happy. I wouldn't mind betting that Raheem Sterling has been made to watch that clip, Clockwork Orange style, 5 or 6 times since Saturday. And then when you look at Marino come on, I think did he win 6 tackles or something when he came on? Like, I get it. He's a very different player. He's a very different size. We're not asking Raheem Sterling to win loads of tackles, but it's like, mate, this is a guy who's serious. This is a guy who's come here not because he's been chased out of his other place. He's come here because he wants to be here and he wants to get in the team and he wants to put the level in. And so with Jesus and Sterling, I think they're slightly different. It's the same end result, but with Sterling, my kind of message is, no, you're not a Chelsea, mate. Like, you've got to tap back into what you were, mid-Man City, not what you've been for the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, harder at certain stages of your career, right? I mean, it's easy to get a young player hungry to prove themselves to buy in. You buy a Ricardo Calafiori who's making his big move and his career is finally happening and he just can't wait to do whatever the boss says to get in the good graces. You get a player who's been through it all, done it all, won it all, on loan, and you have different motivational tactics. That's not to say, by the way, that Sterling's not motivated, not wanting to prove people wrong, not wanting to show that he still has it. And I do think It's one performance as well, by the way. We need to be careful about drawing sweeping conclusions. But what's your take on those players in particular, Clive, Jesus, and Sterling, who, whatever you thought of this performance, and I've seen it run the gamut from actually people thinking it was better than people thought to the opposite. These are important players for us. They're going to have to contribute something because we without them, we are very thin up front and going to play players into the ground. Kai Havertz, by the way, not going away with Germany due to a, quote, knee injury. Now, I think a lot of us are assuming good for us. We're keeping players back. This is what we should do. But it also could be a knee injury. So suddenly you don't want to be writing a Gabriel Jesus off. So what do you think of those performances?
Yeah, I think the Sterling one was a little bit hot and cold. And I think we're learning about him, and he needs to learn about us. And some of the things he does sticks out because no one else is doing it, and because we're all so used to them now, and they all work in synergy with each other. So I sort of dial back a little bit on that because I'm very much one for giving people a chance to get to speed, right? So the Jesus one I find a bit more worrying because the speed aspect is not too far away. I think it's much more emotional and psychological, as Tim alluded to earlier. And that's the bit that's always a bit worrying. And it's very difficult for us to sit on the podcast and say we know somebody when we don't. But when you see somebody just by their movement and their facial expressions, you just know they're not in a happy place. And we don't know why, always. We think we do, but we don't know the players' lives. And that's a worry, and hopefully this 2 weeks off gives him a chance to rebalance because he is incredibly important to us going forward. And Declan Rice, just to close off on the left-hand side, the Declan Rice discussion is one we should have. Another player that came from the summer had a bit of a tough time with England. Not all his own fault, trust me. The manager doesn't know what to do. And he took a bit of flack there for lack of ball progression, etc., and what he was doing. And people were questioning him. But he plays all the minutes all the time. So funny that, isn't it? He then came back for the Ireland game, did really, really well. Again, another stressful game for him, given his background, etc. Man of the match that day, fantastic. I thought, he's back. But he hasn't really hit his heights yet, from an athletic point of view. If anything, this is one of his better games, But again, last year, he arrived in our minds, similar to Jesus did when he first came in, and it's just 10 out of 10 every week, And at this moment in time, he's not. Then we always have to look at these performances in context of the season, and the season, what we're trying to achieve. And we are in this points accumulation mode at the moment, and we are doing things we weren't doing last year. After a big emotional game last year, we played Spurs away in Europe. We played Spurs at home on the Saturday and drew 2-2. Much like Villa did against Manchester United. There was no zip in our performance. We were able to come out a few days later after PSG and just turn in a performance at 7 out of 10 and just win the game. And put your boots in your bag and shoot off home. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And we shouldn't be killing people in that context because we're trying to build a squad to be there for the critical moments. I do have some thoughts on Declan Rice, Elliot, about where he's going to be and what we're going to need from him when eventually the evolution of his team happens and he drops back and what he needs to do. There was a classic moment in this game. Second half, Tim, halfway line, ball gets played to Rice. He was dropping away from the ball and he goes to knock it to Saliba, I think, and it gets cut out. And the giant guy, the 6'7" guy that came on for Southampton, gets the ball and he starts to run through. So Rice's simple drop-off pass was poor. The crunching tackle to dispossess him was massive. Therein lies Declan Rice. He has to improve in his ball play while he gives you a defensive comfort. And when we do eventually evolve into that team, we're going to be talking about this. And there's things that he needs to work through, which I'm sure he will, because he's a 25-year-old lad that's a very quick learner. But this is all about growing the team to get them all to the same place where Trossard is at the moment, where Martinelli is at the moment, where Havertz is at the moment, where Saka is at the moment. We've got no problem with them for, have we? No, at all. In fact, some people are saying we don't miss Martin Odegaard. Well, we'll soon see what happens, shall we? Things change very, very quickly in football.
I mean, it is that crazy thing where you want a deeper squad. We shouldn't just have to rely on the same players, and we need to be able to play when a player is out. And then we become able to play when those players are out. And then our next conclusion is, well, those players must not have been that important in the first place. It doesn't make any sense. Manchester City won the title last season. It gives me no pleasure to say, in part because they were able to ride out a period when Erling Haaland wasn't available, when Kevin De Bruyne wasn't available. We need to be able to do that. I will say, as we record this, news is breaking of a significant legal victory for Manchester City that also potentially has damaging repercussions for Arsenal related to loans we received from KSE. So it seems like a very bad day in court. Manchester City not just cheating, doping financially, allegedly, but obviously leaning on their financial might in the courtroom with the lawyers. We will endeavor to get an expert on the pod to break this down for everybody in the coming days. I'm sure there'll be plenty of time to focus on this, what with international football coming in. So apologies that we don't have any coverage of this right now for you, but it doesn't look good. And so, we will definitely have a word or two about that. Now, I'll stay with you for a second.
Surprised? Are you surprised, Elliot? Let's be honest. We're adults in this room. Are you surprised?
I'm not super surprised. And I do think that I'll just say this. I think this is where the Super League as a concept was probably thinking about, had this kind of conflict in mind, because I do think if you look at the American model, you have strong centralized sporting organizations, leagues that control from the top down. And the clubs are members of that organization and controlled by that organization and submit themselves to it. You don't have that in the Premier League or the Champions League or anything like that. And courts are going to be varied in the way that they view the power of these organizations to control their members. And clearly the courts have ruled in favor of City here as it relates to the associated party transactions, and it doesn't look great. So we'll break that down. Let me stay with you for a second, though, Clive, because I think there's a performance in this game. And look, we need to do the Saka Love Fest and the Kai Love Fest, and that's coming robustly in the second half of this pod. But one of the more interesting performances of the day is Ricardo Calafiori. And I always think it's fun when you learn a new player, and we are learning this player together. What a day he had. What an interesting day, because he dribbled players, and he I think had our most ball recoveries, and he completed 3 dribbles, and his personality when he gets forward is so evident. And Mikel praised him for that and his courage and his confidence in terms of what he does on the ball. But, there's also maybe just a little bit of a question of what happens when he has to run the other direction. He looks like he's got a different gear running back towards his own goal than he has running towards the opposition goal. Dibbling, a good player, had a good game. We've had a few players flash against us this season. Morgan Rogers, obviously, Dibbling did in this game. And Calafiori had a couple ropey moments from a defensive standpoint. So what do you make of that overall performance and how he balances that? Because I think by the end, when he got taken off, Mikel was kind of like, I love you, but I'm ready to lock this down with Tomiyasu. I've seen enough.
Yeah, he brought on Kivior for him towards the end. But the thing is, we have to remember, this is a new league for him, a new level of intensity. And I'll be straight with you, he's not fit yet. As are a number of players, I don't think Rice and Havertz are fit yet. Jorginho hasn't had that many minutes yet. And so we have a number. Jesus, is he at his best? Is Sterling at his best? No. Is the minutes locked in to Martinelli, Saka, Havertz? They're good players anyway. Trossard, the 2 centre-backs, the goalkeeper. They've had loads of minutes, didn't they? They look super sharp. And we just have to build them up. In fact, Thomas Partey's had a lot of minutes as well, and he's looked good this season so far, where other people are behind him. Marino's not fit yet. Not even close. So Calafiori, mate, big body, absolutely dominant on the front foot. It's just a joke to watch. Smashing the analysts to pieces, in my opinion. Those people says, well, we do this and we go there and we do this and then we overlap there. I want to call BS, mate. When he gets it and he moves and he looks behind him if he fancies it, and he's gone. And then people move into it, and he's initiating this. He is doing it, and he is changing how we play on that side, and it is wonderful to watch. It really is. Now, he's not super fit, so what happens? When he gets to the ball, as the ball arrives with a player, well, that player might as well just say goodbye to his family, right? He's going to get churned up in there and then come down and then write an insurance claim in. He smashes you, right? So, but when he's late and someone can 1-2 him, then it becomes a sprinting race. And that's not him, right? That's not him, particularly if Gabriel is not there behind him. But that's okay. I take 8 front-footed challenges that gets us going forward versus 1 or 2 that he might lose going backwards. The other one was Hakimi versus PSG. Well, if anyone knows Hakimi, he might be the quickest fullback in the world. Literally might be that player. And so sometimes let him go, son. Let him go. Put him under pressure on the cross. Let him go. Don't twang your hamstrings. We got other players to fix the middle. And no player's perfect. But I tell you what, this player, I think me and Tim were talking online. I felt like we were talking online, Tim, but we sort of said his impact is huge. Just absolutely huge. To come in in 2 minutes, 22-year-old, bang, come in, just not bothered by the environment, the size of the club, the crowd, none of that. He just wants to get on that ball and do something. If he's doing that now, before he's fit, before he's spent all the time in the gym he needs to get in, I just think the ceiling is incredible. And when I did hear before we signed him, sorry, Elliot, that Real Madrid are after him, that's a Real Madrid style player, big personality, proper player, like a Sergio Ramos player. He started as fullback, ended up as a centre back for Real Madrid. And those sort of dominant, I'm going to make it happen player, we've got one. They don't come along every 2 minutes.
No, he's special. I think he looks really special. Now, look, there were moments in this game where he was exposed, and that made us feel uncomfortable. Against Southampton, you can get away with that. Against other teams, maybe not. But the funny thing is we played some other good teams, and he started in those games, and we gave nothing away. So I think there is a little bit of circumstances. This is where you have to also respect to Declan Rice a bit too, which is if you're going to have a Ricardo Calafiori go up one line ahead of Rice, that's where Rice's pitch coverage and recovery capability and defensive instincts and ball recoveries and all that, that's where that becomes really important, because you can do really interesting things with Calafiori going and standing one line ahead of Rice and Rice dropping back in and covering the vacated space. And so, it is about complementary traits and complementary playing styles. And I think we have that. It is pretty funny because 11v11 this season. Oh, guess what? Dark Arts FC, we have the most expected goals in the league, 11v11 this season. So, it happens that way. And Liverpool, they played the 19th easiest schedule so far. We've played at Villa. We've played at City. We've played at Spurs, which, all right, fine. That game's a banker, but you get the idea, lads. It's Tottenham. I just think in general, there's a lot to be really excited about, but we get to halftime at 0-0. And that's going to lead to nervousness, especially given the dominance didn't lead to goals. And it is the weirdest thing about football, right? You just know if you get to halftime and you've had all the ball and all the dominance and all the chances and not scored goals, the other team's going to come out and have a chance. It just always works that way. It seems like if you don't score during your dominant period, you're going to get scored on. Something weird is going to happen. So I want to touch on the goal we concede, and then I really want to get into Kai and Saka, because this game fundamentally, and I wrote the title to this pod before we ever started recording it, which is Arsenal's Stars Deliver Comeback Win, because this was a game defined by Bukayo Saka and Kai Havertz, period, end of story. There were a lot of good performances, a lot of players who contributed, but they defined it. So I want to get into that, but that is what we call a preview, a teaser, because first, I've got to tell you, and I have to say, I am quite thrilled to tell you that Manscaped is back. Let's just read what it says. Let's say, hi, everyone. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Every man knows the unbeatable feeling of fresh barbershop shave. Now, what if I told you that you no longer have to wait weeks or even months between appointments to experience it? What? That's not funny at all. That didn't make me laugh. That didn't have any synonyms for my privates or references to my privates, euphemisms, indeed. But no, this is about the Chairman Pro, an electric foil shaver. Game-changing tool that brings the luxury of a professional shave right into your home. So that's what it's called, the Chairman Pro. It's a foil shaver. It's your go-to for precision and style. Head over to manscaped.com. Join over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using the code ArsenalVision for 20% off and free shipping. It's got a four-blade foil, skin-safe stubble trimmer, which is good skin-safe technology. The Flex Adjust technology, right, to let you shave around those areas, the pivoting heads. this is great, right? Because like we know that Manscaped makes great tools for shaving all of the areas that we've mentioned previously, but like one of the areas that's a pain in the neck to shave is your face and your neck. And especially like if you're on the go and you're traveling, that's when like it'd be nice to just be able to give yourself a cleanup. So this has a travel lock. So when it's in your bag, it doesn't turn on. It's got an LED light. Give it a try. The Chairman Pro is a shave that is smooth as you deserve. Get 20% off free shipping with code ArsenalVision at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with code ArsenalVision at manscaped.com. And this podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp isn't online therapy. It's therapy that happens to be online. And it is, again, this simple. I've done therapy. I cannot recommend it highly enough. I think it should be part of everybody's healthy lifestyle. Whether that's eating right, exercising, your psychological well-being is important. I am going through something extremely anxiety-inducing right now. And like that shouldn't be the responsibility of my children to deal with or my wife to deal with. There are professionals that help you work through that, right? And you got friends, you got family, you got all that, but therapy is the way to do it. Now, I've done therapy sitting in an office with a therapist, and I can't recommend it highly enough. But can you drive the 20 minutes there, sit there, drive the 20 minutes back? Can you find someone near enough to you? Do you have the time? My mom doesn't even drive anymore because she's at an age where she can't. Does that mean she should never access therapy? BetterHelp gives you access to real therapists who can help you find the things that you want to start thinking about, start dreaming about again. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/vision today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/vision. Do it now. And NordVPN, real simple. You got to have it. I'm off to England soon in the near future, and NordVPN is a must-have with me because I have it on my iPhone and my iPad and my computer. You would click and you browse in another location. And that way I can watch all the Premier League games with my subscriptions here when I'm there, even those 3:00 kickoffs. When I go on social media and they're like, you're not going to believe this video of these Spurs fans crying. And I click on it and it says not available in your location. I click on NordVPN. It is available in my location. And then I can watch the Spurs fans crying. You can sign up for streaming services in other countries where it's cheaper and then save yourself a heck of a lot of money that way. Go to nordvpn.com/ what is our NordVPN code? Everybody asks me. I've had it memorized for years. What is it? It's nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. That's right. To get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan and 4 months free and a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. Huge discount off your NordVPN plan and 4 additional months free on top. It's completely risk-free with 30-day money-back guarantee. Do it now, Clive. So enough of that.
Indeed.
Okay. I don't know what else to say, Tim, but like at halftime, whether you think we've been dominant or not dominant and you're not winning, this thing always just seems to happen. And sure enough, like we come out of halftime and I think it was a bit of a lackluster start. I do think it is fair, even if I think this is a pretty good performance overall. I do think it's fair to say we came out of halftime not great. Dibbling beats Calafiori. The deflected cross is clipped over the bar. Remember that one, right? So there's a cross, it's deflected, hits the bar. And then they score. Cameron Archer, who was only on because of an injury to Stewart. He cuts inside after getting the ball up the pitch quickly, and he finds the corner after Saliba showed him inside. It does seem like it deflected off Saliba's toe. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's the kind of thing that can happen. I don't think it's our best look in terms of team defending. But we lose the ball in a place that we never lose it. And this is the thing. Arsenal, because of the way we play, we're very good at flowing back defensively. But you can't lose the ball in the middle of the pitch in midfield because that's where you've got the easiest access to exploit us. And that's what happened. Any thoughts on their goal and just sort of a poor start to the second half following what I thought was otherwise a fine first half?
Yeah, it was. I don't think we deserved to go 1-0 down necessarily, other than Sterling's part in it. I don't have a huge amount of problems with the goal, really. Like, it comes off the bottom of Saliba's foot as well. Otherwise, I think Raya might save it anyway. And look, you can't go through a game, or it's very rare to go through a game without conceding a shot or a chance. Like, that's going to happen. It does feel a little bit like, at the moment, most of them are going in. And I'm not really clear on how much fault we bear in that. Obviously, the answer is not 0. But it'd be interesting to kind of, I guess, try and put a percentage on it. But yeah, it was a slightly lackluster beginning to the second half. It did feel maybe a bit like when teams like Southampton come to the Emirates, they'll chunk the game up in terms of their game plan. They'll say like first 15, and then 16-30, and then 31-45, and then the beginning of the second half, maybe they'll lose a bit of hope, and we'll just have a little go in there, see if we can get 1-0 up. Like that's relatively common, and fair play if indeed that is what they did. They kind of get it on a bit of a breakaway, but I do also think if Martinelli or Trossard are playing, I don't think they lose that ball that either. Now, look, this isn't going to be a Goldilocks season where we have every player in every position that we want them all the time, and hopefully this will light the fire under Sterling a little bit so that it doesn't happen again, and it might be a useful, teachable moment where it happened to him at Tottenham, but nothing happened because it's Tottenham. So yeah, it was pretty underwhelming stuff at the beginning of the second half. And in a way, don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure we win this game 3-0 if Southampton don't score. But in a way, maybe the goal was useful to us as well. Maybe it just brought about a little bit of that urgency. We brought the players on we needed to bring on. Like I said at the top, it just reminded me of an FA Cup game against a Championship team where you try and get through it with, giving a few players a rest, and then on 65 minutes it's not happening. You bring on the proper team and you get it done. That's kind of how it felt to me. And yeah, it was a lot at the beginning of the second half, definitely was. But I also kind of think this is another game we played without Ødegaard, and the fact that that's barely a discussion, I think, is massively to our credit. And we all had the question once we got through those 3 tough away games in a week, this is a different block of games, going to ask for a different thing. Of course we've missed him, we definitely missed him, but at the same time we've scored 9 goals in those 3 games without him, which I think is pretty good going. And we left Martinelli and Trossard on the bench. So, and we, how much not having Partey in midfield, but we had Partey at right back. Maybe this is just outcome bias, but I feel like if there were some wrinkles in our performance, I can kind of understand why.
Yeah, that's fair. And kudos to Ramsdale, doesn't celebrate the goal. Yeah, it is what it is. I do want to say on the Ramsdale thing, it was nice that he was able to get a song at the end. It's nice that he had a positive return. I think it was the perfect scenario in the sense that they didn't win, but he didn't cost them the loss per se. He played fine. I mean, he did have that really bad turnover to Sterling early. And if we score from that, I think that would have been an unpleasant memory for him. We don't. And I don't think he's to blame for any of the goals. So ultimately, I think it's just a positive day all around for him, which is nice. We want to see him mostly happy, except when they play us. And we do play them on the final day of the season at Southampton. And I will be rooting for calamity for him if that is what is required to get the victory that gives us a title. But otherwise, I'm happy for him. Clive, then the game becomes about 2 players. It becomes about Kai and Saka. And it already was a little bit about Kai and Saka, but it really becomes about Kai and Saka. And the goal we get to get back in the game, I mean, I don't think you can overstate the importance of the timing of this, because I think you go 10, 15 minutes down 1-0, and maybe you start doing things that aren't in your game model. You start hitting it long and taking long shots and looking a little desperate. We've all seen teams do it. Kai went into fuck this mode, pardon my language. And he was just everywhere. After he scores, by the way, he also has another driving run and a great shot where he just beats a man, takes it in, tries to shoot. But the goal, it's Saka and Kai. Saka jumps a pass, intercepts, first time perfect pass to Kai. And you referenced this earlier, no pillow feet here. That's a finish the likes of which we haven't really seen from Kai so much at Arsenal, which is, I've got this. He just wants to win, and he showed it. I mean, I know it is such a cliche, but this was force of nature, willpower stuff from Saka and Kai. So you want to speak on them, and in particular, maybe to start it off, the Kai goal that gets us back in the game.
Yeah, you sort of covered the goal there. I think it's a great shot out to in off the post. I mean, it's quite shocking actually, and he's bringing all the tools out of the bag now. He's not holding anything back. He'd have passed it off a year ago, wouldn't he? Somebody else. So, so he's taking the shot and he's leading the team. But the subtle things I like to see were the things when we were in sort of strange build-up positions, and then he really did roll to the right-hand side out of the block like Ødegaard does. Receive it, moves it quickly, changes position on secondary movement, and he was doing all the things that we need our captain to do. And on this day, we needed that from him. We didn't need him standing there winning flick on some long balls. We needed him to be part of the build-up. Again, this time last year, what were we saying? He can't build up as an 8 per se. He needs to be over up front. We're not sure we're getting enough high-touch performances from him. It's all in a player, mate. It's about extracting it. It's all in there. And he did it. And he is, you heard me say before, I think it's like him and the goalkeeper from a tactical point of view are probably our most tactically important players. I think you can argue that our skipper and Bukayo Saka could be our best players, if that makes sense. Then we can add Saliba in there as well, and I can see arguments really starting. What about him? What about him? That tells you where we're at. That tells you the context of this whole podcast, what we're talking about. It's at the margins. It really is at the margins. One mistake, Tim said it earlier, one mistake, I think the goals we can see in the recent weeks or week, they've got way more reward than they should have got for that. And they've ended up with 3 goals going in, So, yeah, Kai is now, ever since Newcastle away game for me, I said it a million times, he's our line leader. And with Odegaard not being in this team, he's almost owned the identity of the team going forward. We become more workmanlike. We become more hardworking. We may not be as flashy around the football. There may not be too many back heels, but there's a lot of good go forward and work and hard work ethic from the group. And that's why when someone doesn't do it, it really stands out. And we have to just give them a chance to get to the program, as we did for Kai. And I will say this. There's a lot of. It's funny how you can't find too many people who didn't rate him this time last year. Do you think it's funny? I rated him. I always gave him a chance, blah, blah, blah. I do think, and I've said it before, that the fans have played a role with him getting here, particularly the ones in the stadium. Tim, you know what I mean? There were times we would sit on our hands when it wasn't going right, and then really giving him more when it did go right. And now we've got a player that's repaying it all back. And I do think the importance of the fans in the ground is it's massive. It's massive to roll with. We can grumble. We got something called the interweb, mate. We can grumble online. But let's not. But I just think the fans have played a massive role in creating that protective state for him to grow and develop into this guy, the one that the moment that goal went in said, no, not happening. And we can all enjoy our Saturday nights.
Yeah, I have to admit, I waxed lyrical about Kai and the instant reaction, went into quite a monologue about him. So I'm not going to repeat it, except to say I was moved more than I expected by his reaction to not winning the title on the final day when we were at the Emirates. I don't think I knew, players that have this style that seem to lope around the pitch, that seem a little languid. Sometimes you assume that means that that's their mindset, that they're mentally not intense. But the way he didn't celebrate his goal against Everton, the way he was immediately in tears at not winning the title, the way he has recently spoken about winning here means more. I don't think I knew how much he wants it, how badly he wants it, how much it means to him. And this was a goal and a performance that was just indicative of a player who refuses to let things go against us. And sometimes you can't just refuse. Sometimes the football does what the football does. But he is so committed to that. And in combination with Saka, those two, their commitment to winning the game and doing everything it takes. You have 2 players like that, you can do anything. You can go a really long way. And we have a lot of players like that, by the way. I think Declan Rice is like that. I think Martin Odegaard is like that. I think Saliba is like that. Gabriel is certainly like that. Ben White is like that. Timber, they're all over the pitch for sure. But these two, the quality and the intentionality of what they do is sensational. And this is another performance that's just from another planet from Saka. It's 7 shots and 7 chances created. I think he's done it now consecutive games. I don't think any player's done that. He's breaking all kinds of records for assists at a certain age and goals and assists at a certain age. There's a question to be had about whether he could break Thierry Henry's 20 assist record for a season. He's certainly on pace to do it. And with the corners he takes, he's going to have a chance. I think it's unlikely just because it's so hard to do and it's not been done, but he certainly has a chance, especially if we're going to score over 90 goals again. But Tim, I spoke on Kai, but Saka, I don't know what to say. The fact that he's an academy player and the star boy label, I do think that almost in a way is a condescending approach to discussing him now. This is the best right winger in the world, I think. And he's just producing quality, both visually and statistically, that we've not seen ever before. Every week now, he creates the goal for Kai. He creates the goal for Martinelli. He scores the goal to win it, which, by the way, that goal that he scores, it's not just quality. He's got to realize Trossard might lose this, but I've still got a chance. He gambles because Trossard does not do well there. He gambles. He's rewarded for his gamble. He hits it with his weaker foot, which I know you're going to love, Tim, and he scores. So where are we with Bukayo Saka right now? Because he has elevated himself beyond this cute academy player coming into his own to just sensation, superstar, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a quote from him in the week, I think, where he was kind of talking about, like, we know the time is now, kind of thing. And you referenced Kai Havertz's reaction on the last day of last season. I think for Saka it would have been very, very similar, not least because, if and when Arsenal win the league, he's going to be one of the big reasons, maybe even the biggest reason. I think he knows that. And it's not so much an accolade thing as a kind of, I think a lot of these players just really want this. And I guess if you're allowing yourself to skip ahead a bit and run away with yourself, you'd say like maybe Liverpool are feeling a bit post-prime, City are feeling a bit post-prime. We feel like we're coming in to our prime, and that doesn't guarantee you anything, obviously. But Saka, to me, just looks like he's going up to a different level again. And it's amazing, like the variety in his game, really, where like now it's very much, well, not just the assists, but getting a lot more assists now. I think that's probably got something to do with Havertz up front as well, but that cross to the back post for Martinelli, we've seen that from him so many times, and that's so hard to defend. That's basically impossible to defend, that ball, because you've always got a superiority on that back post, because no team can really stick a defender out there. Otherwise, that's just odd. You're just taking them away from somewhere very, very dangerous. And like I said, I can't wait to see Merino start to attack that space a little bit more as well. And he just looks to me like a player who, I've said this about Declan Rice before, but, just every year kind of says to himself, what do I need to do to get better this year? What do I like? What's missing from my game? What's not there? What could be better? And, that to me, and like, I bet nobody at the club had to have a conversation with him about that. I'm sure they have, because that's what you do as a coach. I'm sure nobody had to like prompt him or, kind of say, Bukayo might want to work on this and that. Like, I bet he's already got it figured out in his head. And I just think, we've said before, he has a brilliance that washes over you, but I just think he's one of those people in life who's just hugely capable, who can just say, what do I need to do to go and get better? Brilliant, I'm going to go and do it, and I can do it, just because like he's almost one of those kind of superhuman types. And I don't doubt as well that there's a bit like Havertz, there's a fire there, you can see it. Well, actually, maybe you don't quite see it in terms of...
Don't see it until you do.
yeah, like manifested in that kind of, I'm going to get up in your face. But even stuff like we don't have the conversation about him being kicked anymore, do we? And it's not because it doesn't happen. It's because his response has been, well, I'll just get stronger then. I'll throw my shoulder out, I'll throw my arm out. I'm not going to let them get near me. And he keeps dribbling into those situations where he could get hacked again and again and again and again. He doesn't let it affect him. And I think he's an extraordinary footballer, an extraordinary character. And maybe a little bit like Spurs with Kane, like we've kind of lucked out with a once in a generation academy player there, and we need to make sure that we can achieve the ambitions that he surely deserves.
Yeah. I love him. I love this, the collection of talent, because I think it intersects so beautifully together. But I love that when Kai scored his goal, what'd he do? Let's go back to the center circle. You know what I mean? He understood the assignment. This isn't about, look at me, I scored a goal. This is about, we need to win this game. I I want to give you a chance to speak about Saka. Let me just give you a couple of Mikel quotes, Clive. First of all, on Kai, just so you don't think I'm like going off into a weird place on the, he said F this. Mikel said something similar. On Kai and confidence, he says, you can tell his confidence has grown. He takes the ball and he runs with the ball. He's on high press. He goes full gas. The way he holds the ball, the position he takes in the box. He's an attacking midfielder. He plays as a 9. You don't know where he is. That's his football brain. His focus now is, I'm going to win the game. I'm going to do it. And that's a different thing. He's now scored 7 games in a row at Emirates Stadium. On Saka, it's another step ahead in what he wants, especially when do it at home, do it away, do it in big games, do it in some other games when the team needs it. When it's not when it's 3-0. That's what defines a top player. And, he is a top player, Clive. It's gone beyond. He's an academy player that's come good. He is just a top player.
Yeah, and he understands the game's fundamentals. They both do. And the reason why they've maybe gone up in many people's estimations, although Saka's couldn't get much higher, is they understand the art of the contest. They understand the duel. They understand their one-on-ones. They understand how it's important to impose yourself consistently on your opponent, your direct opponent. And you can do that in all different ways. We do it physically, mentally, with pace, with size, whichever way you can. You shape your team by consistently dominating your opponent. So they've got to bring 2 people over to you. And when they bring 2 people over to you, you find a way to beat them. Then guess what? Martinelli's coming on the back post with a cigar on, right? Because you can't cover everybody, can you, when you've got people like that? The contest, he's so physical in one-on-ones. In the week, PSG, was the fullback's name Mendy? I think I want to say Mendy. I'm apologies if that's wrong.
Mendes,
thank you, Elliot.
Yep.
He was doing quite well, actually, for the first phase of the game. He was doing quite well again. I thought, problem. You know what Saka did? He just tackled him. He was running away at the ball. He just went up to him, bosh, tackled him. Well, that duel is now 50-50. It's all on, mate. You think you've got it, you can run away from me, you can't. Then after that, Saka dominated him a bit more. He doesn't care. He'd do anything he can to dominate his opponent, whether that be he's a brilliant defender out wide, and he uses that as part of it. And look at the first goal in this game. He nicked it, pretending he was not interested, nicked the pass from Downs and straight into Havertz. And he gets the contest, mate. He gets what underpins football. He really does. And we've got a lot of those. It's quite interesting how Mikel buys these dual guys, these one-on-one guys. When you're in an academy, when you're a young kid, and they do a lot of one-on-one training, dribbling up against people, one-on-one, and they expose you amongst your teammates, insert, one-on-ones with everybody watching. And when you're a parent watching, it's a bit scary, right? You're watching your own kid. But I can see now that part of the mentality of the game. One-on-ones is really key. Even 2-on-1s on occasion to really get you to impose yourself on your opponent. And Saka really gets it.
Yeah. I mean, he's doing things we just haven't seen. His dribble numbers are up. His shot numbers are up. His key pass numbers are up. He has 7 assists. He has 2 goals. No penalties yet this season. I'm sure those are just about to start coming, but that was the knock last season. Like, he's inflating his numbers with penalties. Well, he's not doing that this season. He's doing it all. And, the funny thing is, if he had to play 8, he could play 8. The thing that really struck me is for Kai's goal, where he's standing, he's in the half space, he receives the ball, and he does the thing that I've been wanting us to do, which is when you get a high turnover, make the right pass quickly. He makes the right pass quickly. And the pass to Martinelli is an invitation, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, we're gonna talk Martinelli, we're gonna talk about the subs now, but that's brilliant. And like I said about the goal is effort, it's intelligence, it's quality on the weaker foot. He does all of that. And by the way, this was a game where, because Thomas Partey was playing right back, there was no help taking a defender away. He's got 2 defenders staring at him the whole time, and he's got to solve that problem. And he doesn't have the little 1-2s with Odegaard because Odegaard's not there. And he doesn't have an overlapping fullback, right? So he had to solve a lot of problems on his own, and he can do that. It's just come completely full circle with this player now, where all the hard work and all the glimmers of quality have come to sparkling fruition in arguably the best right winger in the world. And you know why I think we feel defensive? And I get this. We've got a tribal troll culture in online spaces where it's Foden king, Saka in the mud, Palmer's gone beyond Saka, Saka's gone beyond Foden. Like, and that need to do that thing is just silly. First of all, Palmer's not a winger. He's an 8. Play Palmer and Saka together for England and watch them cook.
He's 10, really a 10.
8, 10. There you go. Yeah, fine.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Play them together. Foden, he's not a wide player either. So, like, I just don't see the analogy between them. But ultimately, what makes Saka unique is that Saka does all the things that a Mikel Arteta system requires, all the hard work, dirty work things that Mikel was talking about following the derby, and then he does all the other impactful stuff, and the stuff Mikel was talking about, not when it's 3-0 to make it 4-0, right? The things that decide a game. One of the things that decided the game, Tim, is the subs, and I want to give a quick hat tip to Mikel because Mikel didn't wait. Yes, we got it back to 1-1, and I think the instinct normally with Mikel is, all right, we're back to 1-1. Let's let the players on the pitch solve it. We're in good position now. He did not do that. 1-1's not good enough. Raheem, Jesus, thank you for your contribution. Off you pop. Jorginho, thank you for your contribution. Off you pop. Marino on, Trossard on, Martinelli on. Game over. We go and we win it. And Martinelli, the knock on him is, let me guess, he tracks back well. Does he put in the defensive work? There's a tendency to be dismissive about him doing all the right things. But he has been doing all the right things. And I think Mikel has shown a lot of confidence in him that you keep doing all the right things and it'll come, and it's starting to come now from not just doing the right things, but the end product. And I couldn't be happier for him. A goal and assist in the last game and the goal in this game that secures the lead, the winner, right? Ultimately, before Bukayo makes it safe. It's a great run. It's well-timed. It shows his burst in acceleration. It's a nice finish. He said they've been working on it on the training ground, right? That's the delivery that we know both Saka and Odegaard can deliver, and I think we can kill teams with that. So maybe a word on Mikel not waiting, reacting to make the changes, and Martinelli finally, getting the reward for what I think has been good process, good hard work, good effort and contribution prior to this,
Yeah, definitely. Once upon a time, Gabriel Jesus was a good back post finisher. Maybe if we play him wide, that's how we get him back into the goals. With Martinelli, I mean, I think for all of the wherever you kind of stand or sit on the kind of Sterling Jesus thing at the moment, I think what we saw is that Martinelli and Trossard are bang in the frame, right? They're first team guys. Maybe there's not always space for both of them every single week because, once Odegaard comes back, 12 doesn't go into 11, but those are the guys, right? And we were asking very reasonably not long ago whether Martinelli was one of the guys, and we saw that he is, definitely. And it's not just the goal, which is very helpful. To your point, Elliot, I'm with you 100%, and we talked about it. The performances came back first, then the goals came. And that can be very instructive to Jesus and Sterling, very inspirational. Like, get the performance right first, and it will come. It will come for you. Don't force the end product part, because do the performance part first. And that's what Martinelli's done. I think he's been really good this season, had a really, really strong season, and the ball's going in for him now in a way that it probably wasn't a few weeks ago, but he was picking up the positions, which the end of last season he wasn't. Like, that had gone, but this season it was more, he had a good chance at Spurs and he didn't really put it away, but like, that's because the performance was there first. And there are a couple of not even incidents, but there are 2 times in this game where Martinelli breaks the land speed record trying to keep the ball in play. Like, one when it's drifting out for a throw in, and one where it looks like it's going to go out for a goal kick. And again, if I'm Raheem Sterling watching that on the bench, because I kind of think Jesus would do that. In fact, Jesus, that's not Jesus's issue at the moment, right? That kind of part. In fact, there's probably just an element of desperation. If I'm Sterling watching that, I'm thinking, Christ, what kind of team have I come into here? That's what the guy coming off the bench for me is doing. And he's already scored, I think, when both those things happen. And he is sprinting like nothing just to keep the ball in play. And that's what you want. And then Trossard as well. Again, Trossard, when Odegaard was fit, and this question will come back, it's like, well, who starts between Martinelli and Trossard? Is Trossard better off the bench? And in a weird way, even though he was really good off the bench in this game, that's not the discussion we're having. We're not saying, well, maybe he's better off the bench. It was more, yeah, this is what our team looks like. This is what our teams look like the last couple of weeks. And I do think this role really suits him. Trossard probably more than any other role we've ever played him in, like on the left wing. Don't think he's been an amazing left winger, but he's had so much end products that it's kind of almost immaterial. But this like slight inside forward thing really working for him with Havertz. And again, he just comes like those two. Like I said, it was like a couple of academy kids came off. We brought the adults on, and you look at your team and think, yeah, this is what I'm used to at the moment. And you know, you have to say kudos to the manager as well, because he's found a way without Martin Odegaard, and he found a way in 3 tough away games when it was mainly off the ball, and we were all asking, well, what now? And really, it's been the same players, but in a different kind of way. And the manager's ability to keep finding solutions to these problems is really outstanding. And yeah, I thought both those subs really, really changed it.
Very well said. Clive, your thoughts on the subs? Maybe on Martinelli finally getting amongst the goals now?
Yeah, Martinelli, when he was not scoring, and you have to peel it back a little bit. And then, so my first thought was, he's not scoring. Why isn't he scoring? Is he getting into the right shot positions? Which he really wasn't. And Trossard was really instructing him where he should be. 2 penalty spot goals later. You know what I mean? He had a couple of goals straight away and one on the back post. So he's starting to trust himself to get into positions more. But I think the key thing with Arsenal people and when we watch our team is very much what players transmit to us. And when they transmit the work ethic that he showed at Spurs, for example, even though he didn't have a good offensive game, you can't really say too much, right? You just got to wait. He's 23. He's got to come back, right? 15-goal Martinelli's out there somewhere. He's just a little bit lost at the moment regarding goal scoring. But all the other things he's improved upon, you know. And his performance at City was amazing, considering this game state that was there. Sorry, the context is where I'm looking for. Sorry, the context of that game was really was made him do a performance that we didn't think was there, right? So and Trossard was the villain on that day. A game later, he comes in, scores against Leicester, and he's the hero again. It's just keeping your mind open to these changes and developments, and so yeah, they made a big impact. They were coming on before we scored. When they came on, it was over. And the thing that stood out to me on the day was the surge in power once they scored. And it was just acute. It was, we're not suffering today. We're surging past you. And we got to 2-1 probably a bit too quick, because then we had like 20 minutes to go. And it was, it was like edgy. I didn't feel the emotion that you felt earlier, but I did get there a bit early. I was in the Tollington. I probably had a couple too many, so ignore my pre-game stuff. But I didn't feel the emotion that same way. I just really enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying the care to get to the result. They know what they're doing. I personally feel this is an incredibly important season for Arsenal Football Club. There are things that are breaking in the press right now. We are at war with Man City. That is clear, on and off the pitch. We have to do our job. We have to win. When Man City lost Liverpool, there was no contest. Liverpool took the contest away in the early phases of the season. They have never competed anybody and been beaten in the league when they've really wanted it, when they've been there. Liverpool blew them out of the water. COVID year, they accepted their wounds and then came back next year and won it again. Right? So we are in a battle. We have half of the Premier League team of the season in our team. We're in a battle with them. And don't think it's just going to happen because we've got the good players at the right age. They're going to want to take us down in every single aspect. I cannot tell you how important this is. I can't tell you how important it is to re-sign up our key players. And don't think because it's 3 years and a bit to go, this is not time to be talking about this. We have to re-sign up Sleep. We have to re-sign up Saka. We have to win so they don't start to think they can't win at Arsenal Football Club. Everything we have as a group of people, we have to bring it to the show, mate, because they're coming. They're coming for us. And you see what happens when we get a point in Man City, we get criticised for it. And don't think that's not to do with media briefings. They're coming for us, and we have to be ready. We have to be ready. All of us have to be ready. And the players are playing like that. They know how important this is. While we're building people up, we have to stay patient like we did last year with Kai. We have to stay patient because we're going to need them all. It's an incredibly important season for us, so I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would just add that, like, football's super unpredictable. Teams break up when you don't expect it. You know, weird things happen that you're not expecting. When a window is open, you kind of have to take it. And it feels a little open. Manchester City just lost the XG battle. I know that's not how football's measured, but they lost the XG battle consecutive games for the first time, I think, under Pep. I don't think that's ever happened before. That may sound like a minor thing, but it points to the direction of travel, especially with Rodri out for the entire season. In January, they can maybe reload a bit, but until then, they're going to have to find ways to make do without him. That's big. You know, and we've already been there, so they have to come to our place still. You know, Liverpool, we'll see. They look pretty good, but they played basically the easiest schedule you could ask for to start the season. They've got some tough fixtures coming up. We'll see what happens to them. And they've got some aging players that they rely on. You know, Virgil van Dijk and Mohamed Salah are critical to them. Alisson is now out. He will be out for our game. So that's key, right? I don't know about Kelleher, whether he'll be available for that game. He's a good keeper. But Alisson is critical to what they do. So all these things matter. You know, we're without some important players, by the way, but they're coming back. I don't know that there's much to say, by the way, on the Mikel Merino appearance. Just that it's good that we're getting him integrated. We're sort of learning about him. We can see what he is. He's combative. He likes to win the ball back. He likes to tackle. He can get forward. He's rangy. I think it's sort of an American sports word, right? He can cover ground. He's got some of that Declan Rice capability, right? A little more pitch coverage. And I think in a game where we played with Partey and Jorginho, but finished with, you know, Rice and Marino on the pitch and Martinelli, and you see some of the running power and the speed that you then add into the team, we're getting that athleticism back to go with the skill and the physicality we have. So a lot more to come. I think rather than touching on anything else in this game, you know, it's a win. It's a good win. It's an important one. We can quickly maybe just look around the league. We mentioned what happened with City. We mentioned what happened with Liverpool. And by the way, this is the thing. I understand that when it's 0-0 at halftime or when you're 1-0 down, there's a tendency to think, wow, we got away with it. This is another 2.9 to 0.6 XG game. This is another 29 shots to 8 game. We've now murdered Leicester on underlying metrics, right? With 70 box touches and 36 shots and 4.4 expected goals, and murdered Southampton in a similar way with 60 plus box touches and 29 goals and 2.8 XG, where we are now the top team on XG 11v11 in the league. So football's weird. You can go to Villa and honestly probably not play that well and win 2-0 and everybody feels good. Not taking anything away from that performance. I don't think it was vintage. And then you can have 2 home games where you absolutely muller the opposition, but you have to get away with it a little bit because football's weird like that. Looking around the league, though, Tim, it does feel again like this is going to be Arsenal, City, and maybe Liverpool, although I say maybe only because we haven't learned a ton about them yet. Erik ten Hag maybe spared execution. We don't know yet. The longer that tenure can go on, the better. It's just the greatest gift we've been given in a long time. And I have to say kudos to Ten Hag for having the courage on the day when he's probably going to get sacked. He leaves over 300 million pounds of his own signings on the bench for a trip to Villa. Good for him. And by the way, I think it just shows you City laid an egg against Fulham, got away with it after midweek football, right? Liverpool laid a bit of an egg against Palace, got away with it after midweek football. Villa, nothing to offer. The lowest XG game in 2 seasons after a big Bayern Munich tie. What we are doing following midweek, going to the Etihad and probably should have won with 10 men after midweek football. We're doing some special things right now. But it gives us time just to talk about a unique situation, which is the Tottenham Hotspur manager maybe hating Tottenham Hotspur more than any Arsenal supporter. This is a crazy thing, what is happening there. Did you see his comments before the match at all?
Yeah.
They asked him, they're like, oh, you know, you both like to attack and play high lines. How do you keep this from being too open? He's like, I want it to be too open. That'll be entertaining for everybody. I hope it's too open. That'll be great. I mean, after the match, just rubbing his head in frustration, we don't do things the right way. Like, does Ange hate Tottenham more than Arsenal supporters hate Tottenham? Genuine question.
Yeah, maybe he does. He's certainly been grumpy for some time. I think this is this is just a fundamental misunderstanding of what entertains fans, I think. And I sometimes think fans misunderstand it themselves. So when I say to you, I do not care one jot how Arsenal play football. I want them to win. That entertains me, Arsenal winning, right? And that's why I really resented all the talk, maybe in the later Wenger years, of, oh, but they play lovely, entertaining football, and maybe for the neutral they did, by which people also mean like short passing, which seems to be shorthand for entertaining football. And newsflash, different people are entertained by different things, right? It's like music. No one should say like, oh, this is proper music, this is entertaining music. Like, you're just describing one taste, and I think it's kind of silly to pretend that there's some kind of purity in that. And so, when he says, oh, it'll be entertaining, your job, there is nowhere in your job description where it says you have to entertain anyone other than your own fans. You do not have to entertain the neutral. I'm mate, Ange, I'm very entertained. I found that very entertaining. Thank you. If you think that's in your job description, brilliant. I was really entertained. But I think it's more likely in your job description is the Tottenham fans are probably the ones you're supposed to worry about. And I'm sorry, no football fan is entertained by their team losing. They are just not. So if you've lost, you have not entertained your fans. No matter how stupidly you've done it, no matter how slapstick you've done it, it's not entertaining when you're a fan to go 2-0 up and lose 3-2. No one, I promise you, not one person in that away end came out and went, well, still, that was good fun, wasn't it? Like, nobody. That's not your job, my friend. But I say, like, knock yourself out. Like, absolutely great. And it's just, I think, like, pundits really put this across as well about, like, what entertaining football should be and is. And I'm sorry, I think it's nonsense. I think if fans are honest with themselves, winning is what matters. And the only reason I'd be fine with us playing Tony Pulis ball if I thought that would win us the league. The reason I don't want us to play it is because I don't think you can win the league doing that. I think there are a few games this season where you have to do that. Arsenal have shown they can, but you can't do that at home to Leicester and Southampton, so they haven't. And this also plays into, like, there are a lot of people in the media as well having a laugh at those comments from Postecoglou, rightly so. And they are the same bloody people who told us that we were stupid for putting 10 men behind the ball away at Man City when we were winning. Like, sorry, guys, you can't have it both ways. You can't criticise both. And you have to observe some of your own hypocrisies. And to me, if you're going to pick a side, pick the side that ends up with you laughing at Tottenham.
Yeah. I mean, that's always the right side to be on. Clive, a final word on Tottenham Hotspur just seeming like a club that is rotten from top to bottom. I can't explain it. I mean, the way they throw this game away is hilarious. Like, all we hear about is Van de Ven is better than Saliba, and he put up an all-time stinker in this game. He is on the ground an awful lot. A little whiff of just fast Mustafi about him for me. Their top scorer right now hates the fans, Brennan Johnson. Their manager hates the fans. I don't know what to say. It's just, they're rotten, and it's hilarious.
So Van de Ven, two types of speed stamina, speed agility. He can run in straight lines, but you move him side to side, mate, he's in the ground head first. Can't move his feet. Simple as that. Spurs' issues came. Okay, let's just try to do the whole Spurs history because Tim could do that better than me. But Spurs' recent issues with Ange, it came from the derby last season. His approach to that game, he generally wanted to win it, and the Spurs fan didn't. And I was laughing at Spurs fans this week when Aston Villa had an amazing night versus Bayern Munich at home in the Champions League that will stay with their fans forever. And if Spurs had bothered, they could have been having those nights themselves. But they were too bothered about the team up the road. And Ange struggled with that. And he lost a little bit of connection to the group because he was trying to change the culture of the club to make them care more about themselves and care about the next game in front of them rather than worry about other people. And he struggled with that. And he struggled with it ever since. Mate, yesterday, when that game was going on, And normally at Brighton, Tim, tell me if I'm right, because you've been there many times. The end that Spurs attacked in the first half, normally the away team goes to that end, don't they, in the second half? Yeah? And that's where the away fans are. As soon as I saw it lining up with Spurs going towards their fans in the first half, knowing what a good time bunch of people they are, I said to my boy, if Brighton can keep it to 2, they won't lose. And 2-0, I thought, they're still in this. And for those that know, as soon as it turned around and got a bit difficult, we all knew what was coming. I actually thought Spurs might win 3-2, but to let him lose it 3-2, it's like, I've had a bit of sad news this weekend. They must have been sent by the gods for me. You know what I mean? They just cheered me right up. I mean, crikey, it's just incredible. And it's no surprise. You know, and the guy is really trying to change them root and branch, and they won't allow it. They won't allow it. And now he's in a place where I think he's losing people. You know, he's only a couple of set-piece goals away from trouble. Right? That's how it works, isn't it? A couple of set-piece goals away against the wrong team at the wrong time, and suddenly you're all over TalkSport. You know, it could be a problem. So, hey, look, they're here for us. Thank you very much, Tottenham. I love you very much.
Yeah, you can't smile without them. I mean, there's a reason we have that saying, and it really feels like very, very true. Look, I think that's enough. We've got a lot to do over the international break. I definitely want to rewatch. I think the first half of the Southampton game, because I think getting a better look at Jesus and Sterling in a little bit. Well, Clive's shaking his head, so
I
maybe
watched
we'll
it this
rewatch
morning.
something.
It ain't that great, mate. It's
not that great. All right.
Second half is where the fun is, and
all right, we'll watch the second half with all the. You want to watch all the goals? Tim's shaking his head. That's not a proper hipster approach. We will watch all the goals. Oh, by the way, you may have seen pop up the Anatomy of a Transfer episode from Football Vision Pod that I put on the feed yesterday. Phil spoke to a gentleman who goes by Team News and Tickets, Team News and Ticks, sort of an ITK as part of his Anatomy of a Transfer series that he's doing. Really cool series. You can go back and listen to those. He's got data guys. He's got an actual sporting director that he spoke to. He's just doing the whole anatomy of how transfers take place in football. If you could subscribe to that and support Phil, that'd be great. You know, love what he's doing there. I think he's producing some really interesting stuff over there. We'll find an expert and we'll put out an episode on the implications of the ATP case that City had against the Premier League and what that ruling means. But we are not the ones to dive into that today. So I think we can leave it there for today. You'll get a rewatch over on Patreon. You get the ATP case over there. You've got more main pods coming here. Lots of stuff to keep you busy during the international break. And basically now we've got 2 prayer circles. Rare. 1 prayer circle for our players going away on international duty and another prayer circle for Eric Ten Hag. So light those candles, everybody. Clive's on Twitter at ClivePFC. Thanks, Clive.
thank you very much.
Tim's on Twitter at Stillmanator. Thanks, Tim.
My pleasure as always.
My name is Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter. Ain't gonna love you. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Bournemouth 0.